Central Minnesota Sports Hub. It's the Morning Sports Desk, presented by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and streaming on YouTube.
Powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. This is the Morning Sports Desk. I'm CJ Baumgartner. No Corey Tackman today. We are rolling, though, with plenty of great local sports highlights to check out. We are going to talk a little bit about the Staples-Motley Cardinal athletes because a couple of them got some pretty big accomplishments. But first, we need to thank the good sponsors of this program, the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. It's Wednesday, and they want you to join them for Double Points Wednesday. Not only can you get the Big Popper Pizza, I mean, look at this thing, the Big Popper Pizza, you also have the Chicky Chicky Boom Boom salad and more. And of course, with Pizza Ranch, you get the Double Point Wednesdays that all are just so great because you get double points on the FunZone Arcade. You get those double points as well in your Pizza Ranch rewards, which is just awesome. And of course, when you go to the buffet, you get the country's best chicken, you get the potatoes, you get the salad bar, and most importantly, you get the pizza, like the Big Popper Pizza and the other things they have. I'm a big Bronco guy myself. I love getting those Bronco pizzas. I love the cheese bread. It's really hard for me to find something I dislike because that doesn't exist at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. Everything is great. They got a great buffet. They have the desserts you want, the ice cream, the dessert pizzas. They have the big cookie that you cut up like a pizza. And then, of course, you have the FunZone Arcade where you can play to your heart's content and let the kids burn off some steam. And then you get ready to redeem those points for some great prizes over at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena, home of the Big Popper Pizza and the Chicky Chicky Boom Boom salad. And of course, Double Point Wednesdays at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena, proud sponsors of the Morning Sports Desk. All right, well, Staples-Motley athletes have had a great fall in a number of ways. Of course, the volleyball team had some nice moments here and there. And, of course, the football team going on their run last year, having a great year, even if they didn't quite go to where they wanted to. You also have the cross-country team on the girls' side that just had a tremendous year. And, well, we're going to recap a couple big highlights that have come through the woodwork here. First of all, when you look on the Staples-Motley football side of things, a huge shout out to their stud running back and Colby Tappy, the senior running back and safety, was selected to be a part of the Minnesota High School Football All-Star Game, which is taking place on December 13th at 1 at US Bank Stadium for the All-Star Game. It's so awesome to get to be a part of that. I know he wishes he would have been playing in a different circumstance at US Bank Stadium in 2025, but hey, what a way to cap off the old football career. Of course, we know he's playing baseball for St. Cloud State University next year. So one last time to put the pads on and showcase Staples-Motley Cardinal football on one of the biggest stages in the All-Star football game. So congratulations to Colby Tappy on that achievement there. Not only that, when it comes to the highlights of Staples-Motley athletes over the course of the week, but there is a big announcement that is coming up next Monday morning, and that is for Audrey Brunell, who, of course, is the Class A state cross-country runner-up in 2025. She also had some great years running, and, of course, is just a multiple-time state champion. I mean, look at this picture with all the medals. There's a little bit of red in there, but mainly blue. One of the most decorated runners in the state, one of the most decorated, if not the most decorated, Staples-Motley Cardinal athlete they've ever had, like Michael Phelpsian, when you look at how many medals there are in that picture. So congratulations to Audrey on that one. She's going to be making a big decision coming up on Monday, potentially where she could be having that college career and taking the next step in her running abilities. So just stay tuned for that as well. Plenty of great things happening over at Staples-Motley when it comes to their fall sports programs. And of course, we have a lot of things coming up for the winter as well that I'm sure they're going to be excited about in Staples-Motley. Some other breaking news here as things we need to talk about. This is according to WDC Volleyball, just came out, is that junior middle hitter Payton Gravelle selected to the 2025 class AA All-State team. And of course, WDC Volleyball goes on to say they're lucky to have such a talented athlete and leader in the WDC Volleyball program. But hey, congratulations to Payton Gravelle. 2 years in a row, she's been named to the AA All-State team in volleyball, has over 1,000 kills in her career, led WDC to the Section 8 AA title game where they unfortunately fell to defending section and state champion Holly Nuggets, who are once again a juggernaut in that state tournament bracket. But overall, another great year of WDC volleyball. Payton Gravelle, a big reason why, and she gets honored there by being selected to the AA All-State team in 2025. Congratulations to Payton on that achievement. Another thing, geez, local news coming fast and furious here so far. This is, if you go to WadenaRadio.com or the Superstation K106 mobile app, or you follow Sports Cow on Facebook, you can check out this article that Corey Tackman has up talking about New York Mills alum Callie Olson being named the MIAC Volleyball Offensive Player of the Week and getting the nod for her trouble there with a great effort this week. Well, what made her get that MIAC Volleyball Offensive Player of the Week? Well, she had a 315 average, had about 3 kills per set in 3 matches for the Cardinals after recording 7 kills in a 4-set loss to Wartburg on October 29th. Olson hit a .433 percentage with 17 kills and a pair of service aces against St. Olaf on Halloween, added 16 kills with a .394 and 3 aces in a 5-set victory over Bethel on November 1st. Olson accounted for 49.5 points and added 10 blocks across 3 matches. Is that good? Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Of course, Callie plays for St. Mary's. She's in her 3rd year, is the New York Mills alum. Congratulations to Callie on a remarkable a week there for her achievements. A lot of great local things happening. You just love to see it this time of year. All these local athletes going out there and making some pretty huge moments across central Minnesota. All right, that's going to wrap up our local look here. We are going to talk a little state sports. First, starting off with your favorite Minnesota Vikings trade deadline coming up. Everybody talking. Are they going to go get Breece Hall, the running back? Are they going to get another lineman? Are they going to get a cornerback to help them out? And then at the end of the day, well, they get nothing. Yeah, it turns out the Minnesota Vikings made no moves at the trade deadline, and a little bit of consternation among the fan base of like, wow, they sat and they did nothing. Why didn't they do something? Like, you just got a big win over Detroit. And here's where I'm going to say it's okay. It's fine that they didn't go out and make a big trade for a couple different reasons. The first one, let's just start off with the basic, right? They're 4-4. Through their first 8 games. I know they still have, a whole half of the season to go. So this isn't to say that their playoff hopes are dead. But I mean, like, if this was Major League Baseball and the team was 500, a little below at the trade deadline, you'd go, yeah, they didn't make any moves because why would they try and be aggressive and push the envelope? They certainly weren't going to sell at the deadline. The Minnesota Vikings, even in worse years, have never sold. They were not going to sell this year. So the question is, would they buy? They didn't. And the reason is just they're 4-4, and they're technically last place in the NFC North, although I wouldn't cling too much onto that. But the fact is, you have the Lions at 5-3, you have the Bears at 5-3, you have the Packers at 5-2-1, and then you also across the league have 3 teams fighting in the NFC West. When you look at Seattle and Los Angeles, and Seattle, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. When you look at the AFC East, it's pretty much just Philadelphia. But when you look at the NFC East, when you look at the NFC South as well, in that division, you have Tampa Bay, who's going to win it. But then kind of Carolina at 5-4, sneaky, just hanging around. We also have, the Atlanta Falcons, who are 3-5. Their season's been kind of weird, although put the brakes on the Vikings there in week 2, going all the way back. But the point is, it's so log jammed, and the Vikings do not have just a clear cut record to be able to jump out in front of things like they were, maybe last year, where it would have made more sense outside of getting Cam Akers, which he was already on the team, so there's no way they could have did anything else. But they really didn't have a ton of options to go with, because you're probably not making a big swing. You certainly aren't trading 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. I think if the Vikings would have did that, I think we would have been like, that's great, you got him. But oh boy, that was a steep price tag, because you kind of mortgage your future again a little bit. And I think when you look at the Minnesota Vikings, and this comes to the second point, their draft capital. Like, this is a team that has not drafted a ton. I know the number has been thrown around about top 100 players. This is not necessarily a team that has had a lot of opportunities. And the players they have, generally speaking, if you look, they've been kind of hit or miss. Lewis Seen was a miss. Dallas Turner hasn't quite blossomed. But then you look at Jordan Addison, you look at Donovan Jackson, you look at J.J. McCarthy, some of these players that the Vikings have taken high and early, and we're seeing some good results on them. And you want to keep that draft capital. I think if I kind of look up quickly, Vikings draft picks for 2026, looking at the draft selections that the Minnesota Vikings currently have at the moment, trying to find the number looking up here. Vikings have a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick, a fifth-round pick from Philadelphia, a sixth-round pick from Indianapolis, and 2 sevenths. And somebody said in the comp pick formula that, with Sam Darnold, you would probably, because it kind of is like a year late on getting the comp picks awarded to you because it depends on playing time this year, the Vikings would likely get a third-round pick for Sam Darnold. So you'd have a first, a second, 2 thirds, a fifth, a sixth, and 2 sevenths. It's not like a huge draft haul, but it's certainly, for where you're at as a team, gives you plenty of ammunition to take some players. And the Minnesota Vikings are an old roster, and veterans win in the NFL. I understand that. You also do need to make sure that you have some draft capital. You can't only have 3 draft picks every draft. I think the Vikings only had 5 maybe last year. A lot of them were late round picks. And look, as I'm not a big I'm not going to say I'm a Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah like defender or apologist or whatever. I certainly am not a hater of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, especially when it comes to the draft. Everybody wants to say all of his draft picks are terrible. And I think that that's a little misconstrued. I just think that we just don't have a big enough sample size yet. Although, it's been hit or miss. There has not been outside of 2022, which was an awful draft class, and everybody agrees on that. But since that point, 2023 had Jordan Addison, 2024, of course, you have J.J. McCarthy in the mix, and then 2025, Donovan Jackson appears to be a really good pick. And then you want to go back a year ago, Levi Drake Rodriguez has been blossoming. The Vikings have some undrafted players. When you look at Ivan Pace, when you look at Jalen Redmond, a guy who they brought in, although he was technically an XFLer, but you get the point of the fact of the Minnesota Vikings do have an opportunity to find diamonds in the rough. They drafted Will Reichard. They found Miles Price on an undrafted free agent. This team has been able to evaluate talent at a moderate rate. They're not like running a factory, but at the end of the day, they're not awful. So all of this is to say, is at the end of the day, the Vikings needed to kind of keep their draft picks. I think if you trade like a 6th or do a 5th round pick swap or something, if they would have done that, I think it would have been okay. But it's just the NFL trade deadline. I think everybody wants it to be like the NBA or Major League Baseball or the NHL. The NFL trade deadline, outside of the Jets sell-off with Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, is pretty nothing. Teams will kind of just add here. They're like situational pass rusher, third wide receiver. You saw Jacoby Myers get traded from Las Vegas to Jacksonville. Almost called him Oakland for a second there. But you see all that stuff. The Minnesota Vikings were not wrong for standing pat, and that probably would have been my approach too. Now, if the Vikings were even 5-3, I maybe would take a different look, but they're 4-4, and it's crazy how much difference, losing to Atlanta or losing to Pittsburgh or, not being able to close out against Philadelphia or getting the doors beaten off you in LA. There's a lot of things there that kind of hinge between the Vikings buying and the Vikings just standing pat. I think standing pat is the right move. It's probably the one I would have done in that situation. So take that for what it is, but that's where things shake out with the Minnesota Vikings. They're getting ready to play Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, who just traded Jair Alexander recently. So, he was scared to go up against Justin Jefferson again, just like he was in Green Bay. All right. Other things that we need to talk about in the state sports realm. Is Anthony Edwards coming back? Maybe. maybe. John Krasinski of The Athletic putting out there that Anthony Edwards was practicing and was kind of in the mix. I want to get the official quote that he had talking about kind of directly asking Chris Finch. According to John Krasinski of The Athletic, Anthony Edwards practiced today with the Timberwolves. Chris Finch said he is progressing well from the hamstring injury. When asked if he could play tomorrow versus the Knicks, Finch said, quote, "I wouldn't be able to say at this stage. I have no idea." To which Krasinski basically said, "Hey, that's not a no." And again, to Krasinski added on that he's sure Anthony Edwards and the Wolves medical and athletic training staff will take time to see how the body responds to the workouts. But barring a setback, if it's not against the New York Knicks tonight, it feels like Anthony Edwards is going to be able to come back sometime soon. Now, they play the Knicks tonight. It's a 6:30 tip-off for the start of that game. But then on Friday, they're hosting the Utah Jazz. On Sunday, they host the Sacramento Kings. And again, this is just a gut level feeling. I'm not reporting anything, but it kind of feels like, and then it's a back-to-back Sunday to Monday. They play Utah. It feels like by Monday, we're going to see Anthony Edwards come back. And honestly, my gut feeling tells me that he'll be back on Friday. Friday is the NBA Cup group stage where they play Utah at the Target Center. So I could see the Wolves maybe getting him back for that. It depends on how much they really care about the NBA Cup, because honestly, who really cares about the NBA Cup? You try and win the games because they're regular season, and if you get in the tournament, you get in the tournament. But if you don't, you're not necessarily crying by any stretch of the imagination. So a lot of things happening in the NBA, but Anthony Edwards could be coming back, and it would come at a great time because you saw some guys step up without Anthony Edwards in the lineup. Now, granted, they were playing the Brooklyn Nets, but you still took care of business. You had Dante DiVincenzo having a great game. Julius Randle continues to be the player that he was in the playoffs. Jaden McDaniels offensively getting that swagger early in the season. There's just a lot of things right now that are pointing toward, not that the Wolves are figuring it out and they're going to steamroll everybody, but this is a Wolves team that certainly didn't get off right out of the gate to the fastest start, and the schedule kind of helped you out with a couple wins against Charlotte and Brooklyn. Now you're going to end things against the Knicks with a big game tonight, and then you kind of have Jazz Kings back to back before the schedule ramps up again with Nuggets, Mavs, and things like that coming up. So there is a little bit of a soft belly in the Wolves schedule here to pick up some wins over the month of November before things start to heat up. Kind of at the end of the month, you play the Thunder, you play the Celtics, you play the Spurs. So before, around Thanksgiving week, from now to Thanksgiving week, the Wolves have an opportunity to pick up a bunch of wins and kind of slot themselves in over the course of the season in on this thing. So here we go. Ant, are you back? I hope so. I really do hope so. All right. Looking at the Minnesota Wild, they got a big win last night in a very controversial way. Now, the Minnesota Wild, of course, the season hasn't been going the way that they've wanted to. And if you look at the standings right now for the Minnesota Wild, they are second to last in the Central Division with just 13 points, now tied with the Blackhawks and just a point behind the Preds, which again, yesterday's win maybe helped things out, could have helped things out for you had you won it in regulation. But hey, it's still November. I'm not going to get that up in arms about the standings, but also the Wild sit at 5-6-3 right now on the year. They sit at 5-6-3, and they need to try and get through, try and get some wins and try and stack up some points. So they play the Predators, and then all of a sudden, looked like Marcus Johansson was coming in for the game-winning goal, and all of a sudden the goal gets knocked off the post, and they review it. They ruled it a goal, and I think there were people who were trying to say, hey, look, the goal comes dislodged. That should be a no goal because the net's dislodged, and he can't play, and that's automatic stoppage. But then the refs realized that the Predators goalie decided he was going to just give a little old kick to the goalie and dislodge it. And because the goalie dislodged it, because that's what Saros decided to do, the NHL awarded the Wild the goal. It's in the same way. Remember the NFC title game in January when that one dude for the Commanders just kept rushing, just kept jumping early every single time Philly tried to do the tush push, and the official basically was like, all right, man, it's been 5 times. If you do it one more time, I'm just going to award them a touchdown. So knock it off. And that's the NHL's version of that. Like, you can't just, I mean, that goal was coming. And it's a wimp move. I'm sorry. It's a wimp move. I understand. Oh, he's trying to be heads up. He's trying to play the rules. No, man. Like, that's just such a lame move. And if the refs wouldn't have caught it, it would have been even more lame, because there's a reason why that rule exists. You can't just every time you're about to give up a goal, break the net and be like, oh, sorry, we got to stop, because every team would do that all the time. And it's not a good look for Nashville. And if you topple on the Saturday Night Live sketch on Saturday, it really has not been a good week for Nashville in that regard. So the Minnesota Wild get an overtime win in the throwback uniforms, which look great, by the way. And that's how we wrap things up on today's episode of the Morning Sports Desk, powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. We'll see you next time.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Follow the Morning Sports Desk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And watch every show on YouTube.